Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome to. Wait, I just realized something. Holy shit! 50 episodes of the FilmBrony podcast. What?
Mm.
That's insane. That's insane. I cannot believe it's been 50 episodes. We're now at 50 episodes of the FilmBrony podcast, ladies and gentlemen. 50 episodes. And my God, I don't even know what to say except holy shit. But anyway, I'm Nick Canino, the guy in charge of this, and with me, I have a guest with me who made this whole podcast 50 episodes ago. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
So yeah, happy Halloween, happy 50 episodes, happy nearly fifth anniversary. You know, we have a lot to go over.
We sure do. Like, since this is Halloween, and which is why I have this on. I promise next Halloween, I'll have a costume ready. So, but we got a lot to go over today. Like we got a special edition of the dog and pick of the show, as well as like we got two Halloween related stuff that I promised that you guys have been waiting for. So, well, so let's not waste any more time and just get started. So here we go. Starting with the Blu-ray showcase.
All right, since it's only been a week, I only have a handful, and they are Gattaca and Passengers. I'm Not There. King of New York. And Ninja Assassin and Enter a Dragon.
I don't have any Blu-rays this week, but I do want to share a couple of DVDs that I ordered in honor of Halloween today. One is a classic, An American Werewolf in London.
That's a good one right there.
Mm-hmm. And the other one is a pretty overlooked film, Wishmaster.
I've heard of it, not too familiar with it.
Yeah. Well, Robert Englund is in it, so and Tony Todd. And we all know Tony Todd from Candyman, and of course Robert freaking Englund as Freddy fucking Krueger.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was the shortest Blu-ray showcase, but you know what? Let's just jump right forward to the movie reviews, starting with Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
Now, it's been quite obvious that Tim Burton's been on a slump as of late. His dependence on Pussy Studios and CGI has clearly weighed him down, and his love for the creepy and macabre hasn't really been shown for the last 10 years. But it seems like in this movie, he's been given all the freedom in the world once again after WB greenlit this sequel, and the more than shows here. This movie maintains the same creepy and macabre tone as the original film, with its stellar production design, makeup, music, and special effects that are more than just the cheap CGI that's been plaguing a few of his recent movies. And besides the newcomers like Willem Dafoe, Monica Bellucci, Justin Theroux, and Jenna Ortega, who each give it 110%, Noah Ryder and especially Michael Keaton are just as fantastic as they've been 36 years ago. So if you love the first movie, or at least you're a Tim Burton fan who's been burnt out by his movies as of late, this movie will strengthen your faith in his craft because this is a return to form for him. So go see this movie. It gets a seal of cinema.
Mitch. Oh boy, you want me to pronounce Krueger right? Well, here we go. Krueger, fucking Krueger.
Hey Mitch, I bet you're the kind of person to fuck a person in the ass and not even have the courtesy to come and give a reach around. We'll be watching you.
Oh, man, we're only 5 minutes in, and we are having a show right now, guys. Everybody is going for. We are going for the jugular today, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, I didn't love it as much as Søren did. I mean, I love the first Beetlejuice movie. Uh, I didn't love the first Beetlejuice movie, but it was. I love the first Beetlejuice movie. It's one of Tim Burton's finest movies he's done to date, and it features Michael Keaton giving out one of his finest performances of his career as on Beetlejuice. So I was looking forward to seeing Beetlejuice, and I really like this movie, but I didn't love it. I didn't love it, but it was very good. And let me just get out of the way what I didn't like about the film. The story felt very overstuffed and all over the place, especially with how many subplots get either thrown out the window or underutilized. And while it does deliver good dialogue, I also thought the screenplay could have used some improvement on the characterization, since not only does it throw too many characters at you, but some of them, including Monica Bellucci's character, feel underutilized, especially with how they're not given that much to do in the film. The pacing was also an accelerated and frantic mess at times. And because of how underutilized Dolores felt, which, by the way, if you don't know who Dolores is the ex-husband of Beetlejuice in the film. But yeah, because of how underutilized she felt, it also results in Monica Bellucci being horribly wasted in the film, even despite her giving it her all. But that's really it as far as my issues are concerned. Yeah, I love that cameo too. Yeah. Mitch, you son of a bitch. and yeah, it's not PG because we say fuck PG, fuck censorship, and just this is our fucking show. If you fucking don't like it, like this show is for people 18 and over. And if you don't like it, get out. Sorry, I thought I mentioned that. But yeah, Tim Burton's directing was fantastic. The acting was great. Michael Keaton was fantastic as always as Beetlejuice, and Winona Ryder. It was good. It's good to see Winona Ryder on big screen again. She was wonderful as Lydia. Jenna Ortega was also great as in this movie as Astrid, and the on-screen chemistry that she and Ryder had in the film was great. And Catherine O'Hara was brilliant as Delilah, especially with her having a lot of funny moments in the film. And it was good. It's good to see Justin Darrow. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that name. But let me type his name in the comments. You really think I would do that? More like R-rated, but yeah. Anyway, it was good to see him and Willem Dafoe on screen. On screen, they also had terrific. They also gave out some very good performances in the film. And yes, Danny DeVito's cameo was amazing. Yes, excellent musical score by Danny Elfman. It's got terrific cinematography, solid editing, excellent use of comedy and macabre gothic horror sprinkled into the mix. Fantastic production design, and not only did the film deliver a very satisfying ending, but my biggest praise with the film are the spectacular special effects. Like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, there were a couple of CGI effects added to it, but the amount of practical effects they used in the film, especially the prosthetics as well as claymation, is spectacular. And as one of my friends on Discord told me, it's like a throwback to the visual effects work in the 80s, in which I totally agree with. I totally agree with. So overall, while I didn't love it as much as Søren did, since it falls short from being as spectacular as the first due to its story being a bloated mess. Beetlejuice, nevertheless, I nevertheless found Beetlejuice to be highly entertaining and a lot of fun. And yes, as a legacy sequel, this worked. 8 out of 10 or a B+. I really like this movie. And now we're going to talk about the next film. Now the next movie we're going to talk about is an A24 film. It's an A24 film. Yeah, TVY, all right. TVY, like it TVY, all right. If it had the common courtesy to say "fuck you" on the air.
Hey, if My Little Pony can get away with a ton of shit with a TVY, then we can too.
Yeah,
and certainly
really.
more than that PG-rated My Little Pony movie. Seriously, why was that rated PG?
That didn't make any sense. But yeah, I like the movie, but yeah, that didn't make any sense to be rated PG. But anyway, next up is an A24 film called The Front Room. It stars Brandy Norwood, who you may recognize as like the singer, and she plays Belinda, whom everything goes to hell for her while newly pregnant after her mother-in-law moves in. As the diabolical guest tries to get her claws on the child, Belinda must draw the line somewhere. Now, it had a really good premise. It had a really good premise with the film. And I was surprised when I found out that the directors of the film, Max and Sam Eggers, are actually brothers of Robert Eggers, in which, come on, we all know what Robert Eggers is known for. The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman, and the upcoming Nosferatu. Like, come on. How can we not know who Robert Eggers is? So I was curious about this one going into this one, due to the fact that it's directed by Sam and Max Eggers, and I was really hoping that it would be a good start. A good start. But oh boy, and it really pains me to say this, but it really pains me to say this, guys. This is like, this is up there with Spring Breakers, How to Talk to Girls at Parties, Men, and Ditch the Musical as being one of the worst movies that A24 has distributed. It really pains me to say that, but I could not stand this one. Now, let's start with the positives first. The acting was very good. Brandy Norwood was brilliant as Belinda. And Catherine Hunter, despite the fact that I fucking hated her character, she was very good as Solange. It's not her fault. Now, granted, it's not her fault that her character was so poorly written. I blame that on the writers, and we'll talk about the writing in a bit. And Andrew Burnap, although I had some problems with his character as well, was also very good as Norman. The score was great, especially with it carrying like some of the old sci-fi vibes that, especially that. That was brilliant. Yeah, that makes sense at all. And it's got excellent cinematography as well. But that's it. This is one of those movies where it had an intriguing premise and a promising start, but crashed and burned throughout the rest of the flick. The story was a contrived mess. Max and Sam Eggers' directing was all over the place, and don't think their screenplay is even better either. In fact, it's such a muddled mess, especially in terms of not only how paper thin the characters felt, as well as how clunky its dialogue felt, but it also tries to throw in its themes involving grief, motherhood, religious trauma, and Manurdity. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but those themes sadly never came to fruition, and that really made me question, what were you guys even going for with this? There were also some editing choices made in the film that came up as being uneven and jarring. It has a lot of pacing issues throughout. It's also full of cliches that you see. It's also full of cliches as well, including this one trope that I cannot stand, where a character makes stupid decisions for the sake of the plot or to pad out the runtime. And sadly, that's exactly the case with The Front Room. And I never thought I would talk about an A24 film that would use that cliche trope, but here we are. And admittedly, although it was satisfying to see the ending where Belinda finally kills Solange. Spoilers, by the way, but I don't care. You still shouldn't see the movie. I have to be honest when I say that I found the ending to be very predictable, especially when throughout the entire movie, like when I saw the like anger that Belinda had towards Solange, I was like, she's gonna kill that. She's gonna kill her in the end, isn't she? And sure enough, I was right about that. Yes, it also suffered through the same problem. And I'll say this: The Strangest Chapter 1 is worse, but this is definitely up there. And we're going to talk about another horror film in a bit that also suffers through that trope as well. And above all that, this movie is not scary, as there's no real tension or atmosphere whatsoever. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention one last praise I had with the. Oh wait, never mind. One last praise, which was a terrific sound design. Even despite the terrific sound design, it just wasn't that scary. The atmosphere wasn't there, nor was the tension, and it was filled with really disgusting scenes that serve no purpose other than just to be there, just to shock you. In other words, it's gross out for the sake of it. And which scene am I? Now, what am I talking about? You might ask. Well, there's a couple scenes where I'm not making this up, by the way. Solange like pees and poops all over the bed, and then later on in the film, and I can't make this up, by the way, she puts her fingers full of shit, full of poop on like a couple of doors. Like you see her fingerprints having actual shit. Like, come on. Were you really trying to be that disgusting for the sake of it? Because it just didn't work. It's not working. Yeah, overall, I found The Front Room to be frustratingly contrived, repetitive, inconsistent, and easily one of the worst movies I've seen from A24. Look, I love A24. They've made some of the best movies from the past decade and this decade so far, but this is not good. This was not good at all. 3 out of 10 or D plus. I really dislike this one. I wish I was making this up, dude. Especially the fact that you actually see her handprints covered in feces. Like, what the actual fuck? What were they thinking when they came up with that? I do have some hope for like Sam and Max Eggers, but this was a bad start. They do have some talent. I wish they would show it in a better movie. And to answer your question, it's How to Talk to Girls at Parties. I hated that movie. All right, so next movie is Speak No Evil. It's the new Blumhouse film, and this is an American remake off of the original film. And here's and apparently it's about a dream holiday that turns into a living nightmare when an American couple and their daughter spend a weekend at a British family's idyllic country estate. Admittedly, I was not impressed when I saw the trailer for this at a couple of my showings. Especially when like if you've seen both trailers of the film, you've already seen the entire movie. Like, I have no idea why they marketed like that. Like, come on, guys. Like if you're making people see the trailer thinking that they just saw the whole movie, then why would you even market it that? Yeah, so I wasn't impressed with how the trailers looked in. But the only reason why I was interested in this one is because James McAvoy was in it. So he was the reason why I was curious to check this one out. And to my surprise, I actually liked this movie. I actually liked it. Now, it's not great. There are some issues I have with this movie. So, like, I want to point out some things that I didn't like. Well, first of all, I do want to point out some things I did like. Despite predictability, the story and plot nevertheless felt intriguing and highly engaging. Like, it did keep me invested throughout when I saw what was going on. And yes, she was in the film. And that's the reason why I was curious about this one. It's well directed by James Watkins, who, by the way, James Watkins also directed The Woman in Black, which is a damn good movie, by the way. The acting was great. James McAvoy steals the entire show as Patty, while Mackenzie Davis and Scoot McNairy, even despite my problems with the way the writers wrote his character, which I'll get to later on, also give out very good performances in the film as well. There's not a lot of music since it's mostly silent throughout, which I actually really liked. I really like. Like, as they always say, silence is golden. But even when there is, the musical score was nevertheless haunting and eerie, which I did like. It's got terrific cinematography, solid editing. The movie does deliver some real tension and intrigue, especially in the third act. And the themes and social commentary involving, like, toxic masculinity and how social nice ties can be deadly were executed nicely. And it also has a really intriguing third act, as well as a very satisfying ending that I was also very pleased with as well. Now let's get to some things I really didn't like about the film. Well, I did praise James Watkins for his good directing. I cannot say the same for the screenplay, because I felt it could have used some improvement on some of the characterization, especially Ben. Like, oh my God. You thought Norman made some really dumb... You thought Norman from the front room made some really dumb decisions throughout? Ben from Speak No Evil makes Norman from the front room look more brave in comparison, especially in some parts of the film when it's shown that he doesn't even like his family. Like dude, you're like, you don't care that your wife and daughter are in danger? Are you really that stupid? It also suffers from some pacing issues in the second act. It also has a share of cliches, including the obvious one, where the characters make stupid decisions for the sake of the plot, or just to pad out the runtime. And I already mentioned Ben, and it's just, dude, listen to your wife. If she knows there's something weird going on, you fucking listen to her. And it's also very predictable. And my biggest problem with the film is that it's also very predictable, especially when it came to the twist reveal. Which I'm not going to spoil what happens, but when I saw that twist reveal, I was like, I knew it. I called it. But even despite all that, I did like this movie. Despite its predictability and its story and plot twist, I nevertheless found Speak No Evil to be an intriguing experience that's worth checking out just for James McAvoy's menacing yet wonderful performance. 7 out of 10 or B. It's not great, but it's surprisingly a lot better than I thought. And even despite my rant towards the cliches that the movie throws in, it's still an enjoyable film to watch. So yeah, I recommend this one. But now we get to one of the worst movies of the year.
Well, first I want to talk about the 4:30 movie.
Okay.
And this movie was okay. Just okay. I will say Kevin Smith's dialogue can go on for way longer than I can stand. Some of the production values in the in-universe movies are extremely shoddy. And yes, I get that's a joke, but sometimes a joke can go too far. And Ken Jones seriously needs to stop playing himself in every movie as his stick has gotten old. However, I do like the main young actors and the 80s nostalgia sprinkled throughout. And overall, it has enough charm to tide you over for an hour and a half. Not one of the director's best, but worth seeing at least once, and it gets a seal of accuracy. Which is more than I can say about The Killer's Game. This is one of those movies that try way too hard to be Guy Ritchie, but fail at a spectacular level.
Not to mention, it tries way too hard to be like a comic book movie. Like, especially given the fact that the irony in that is that one of the villains actually says this: "Guys coming right out of a comic book." Like, irony much, guys? Irony much?
Starting with the story, not only is it yet another boring hitman story, but it's like it goes through the motions like it wants to get to the action as soon as possible. Which I won't mind so much, except even the action is nonsense.
It's not like the action was terrible. Yeah, it's decently choreographed, but the problem is that the editing was all over the place. And to add insult to injury, I'm not making this up, guys. They relied on CGI blood. Like, whenever anybody gets killed, you literally see CGI blood. Like, and the CGI blood was like something I would see in a fucking YouTube video, not a theatrical movie.
And the acting is so phoned in. Dave Bautista, Ben Kingsley, Terry Crews, and the others look like they don't want to be on set and just want to take their paycheck and go to the next gig. Which is ironic since it's like the budget solely went to the actors and nothing else. Not that it would matter since this movie bombed in theaters, and am I more than glad for that. I'm giving The Killer's Game the seal disapproval.
And it's another losing streak for Lionsgate. I mean, that's 3 in a row, by the way. First Borderlands, which is one of the very worst movies I've seen this year. Excuse me. Anyway, first Borderlands, then The Crow, which is one of the worst reboots I've ever seen, and now this movie. Yeah. The only redeeming things I'll say about the film, and I know you might disagree with me, Søren, but I have to say this: Dave Bautista and Sophie Patella are the only actors in the film that give out good performances, and it has a very good cinematography as well. But otherwise, this movie sucks. The story was a muddled mess. The screenplay was absolutely atrocious, especially in terms of most of the characters feeling paper thin and one-dimensional, and the dialogue feeling like something that I'm not kidding about the dialogue, by the way. The dialogue feels like something that a chat GPT would create. Or some type of AI. That's how bad the dialogue is. It's poorly directed. The rest of the acting was terrible. Poor Ben Kingsley is horribly wasted in this movie, even despite the fact he's trying to give it his all, since he's not given that much to do in the film. Terry Crews is horribly miscast and is insufferable in this movie, while everybody else, such as Scott Adkins, feel like they're overacting. The soundtrack was an obnoxious mess. The editing was all over the place. It also suffers through a lot of pacing issues here and there. It's also filled with a lot of cliches that you've seen in other films before. The tone was also an inconsistent mess, since it can't decide whether it wants to be an action movie, a comedy movie, or a romance movie. And not only that, there are two big issues I have with this movie. Two big issues. The first being that Søren mentioned this, and I agree with him. I didn't find the action sequences in this movie to be all that exciting. Sure, it's decently choreographed, but the sloppy editing was what ruined it for me. And of course, I already talked about the second biggest problem with this movie, but I might as well bring it up one last time. The fucking CGI blood. Seriously, who the fuck thought it was a good idea to have CGI blood in the action sequences? That, along with the choppy editing, was what ruined the action sequences for me. And like I stated just now, the CGI effects they used on the blood to make it seem like the actors are really bleeding could look even more fake, especially when it looks like something that you would see in a fucking YouTube video in the early 2010s. Yeah, overall, I hated this movie. The Killer's Game is one of the most convoluted, boring, and meandering action movies I've ever seen, and it's easily one of the worst movies I've seen in 2024. 1 out of 10 or D-. This movie was terrible. This movie was terrible, and even if you're a fan of Dave Bautista, don't watch this movie. It's not worth it. It's not worth your time.
Now I'm going to get to the movie that I'm surprised isn't even the most controversial review of this very episode, Transformers 1.
Oh boy. And this isn't the only time we're gonna have a disagreement on it. Given what's about to come afterwards, but go ahead.
Now, it seems like ever since the Michael Bay movies are starting to lose steam, fans of the franchise have been clamoring for an fully animated prequel set on Cybertron, and the request has only gotten stronger ever since the opening of the Bumblebee movie. But the irony is that when it finally came out in 2024, they already gotten tired of it all, to the point that it bombed pretty hard at the box office. And after see the movie, I can easily see why it underperformed as hard as it did. I will say most of the actors are pretty good in their roles, especially Chris Hemsworth as Optimus and Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron. The action sequences are admittedly fun to watch, and it does have its powerful moments here and there, especially in the climax. But that's it for positives. First of all, am I the first one to say I was not a fan of the way they animated this? I mean, after these movies have proven to be visually stunning in their CGI, here comes this movie to look kind of cheap looking. Like before I saw the trailer, I wanted it to look like that first 5 minutes on Bumblebee. Second, while I did say most of the cast is on point, there are 3 actors that kind of got on my nerves. Steve Buscemi was just plain Steve Buscemi.
I disagree.
John Hamm as a villain has the same problem as a Storm King from the My Little
Pony.
I
also disagree with that. Steve Buscemi and if I can interrupt for a bit, Steve Buscemi and John Hamm both did a very good job. They both gave up very good vocal performances.
But for me, it's Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee, who I know it's bold to say.
I agree with.
I know it's bold to say it's a claptrap of this movie.
he wasn't as annoying as Claptrap, but he did suffer through the same problem as Seth Rogen when he voiced Donkey Kong in the Super Mario Brothers movie last year. Even though I actually really liked the Super Mario Brothers movie, it's just Keegan Michael Key playing Keegan Michael Key, and not the character he's voicing.
Not just that, but he just doesn't know how to shut his fucking mouth and just let the scene play out. So I guess when it comes to these movies, it's either have Bumblebee completely mute in the Michael Bay movies, or just being annoying as Chatbox in this movie. Not that the rest of the humor is any better, because the tone is all over the place. On the one hand, it wants to please the little kids with its particularly juvenile humor, but at the same time, we also hear the robots toss out swear words and straight up kill each other on screen.
I'm sorry, but that made me laugh so hard.
Like, do you want this movie to be light comedic or dark and mature? You can't have it both ways, movie. And do you want to know my favorite part of this movie? That ending was a complete Deus Ex Machina. Not just that, it's the exact same Deus Ex Machina from Transformers 2 that everybody complained about. Answer me this, Paramount. Why the fuck would you just repeat a scene that you know everybody had a problem with, like we'll forgive it when you do it a second time? This is just like in Star Wars, after people complain about Darth Vader, no, in Revenge of the Sith, George Lucas put the exact same thing in the Return of the Jedi Special Edition just to spite everyone. So overall, I just don't get this one. Unlike Super Mario Bros., which at least had a mixed Rotten Tomatoes score, this movie is in the high 80s, and with critics calling this the best Transformers movie, and I'm like, did we even see the same movie? Hasbro, just stop at this point. The latest My Little Pony generations just screeched to a halt after barely over 3 years, while Generation 4 lasted a little over a decade. The last G.I. Joe movie failed critically and financially. Dungeons and Dragons failed to connect with audiences, and now this movie failed too. So
and it's unfortunate because I love Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
So why are you still trying to get that G.I. Joe Transformers movie off the ground?
Yeah, like I don't like the fact that they're doing that. Like this crossover thing has gotten out of hand at this point.
Point is, Transformers 1 is one of the most overrated movies of the year, which I'm giving the seal mediocrity. Hasbro, just give up.
Well, Søren, we're gonna have to disagree on this one because when I saw the trailer for it at a couple of my showings, I was not impressed with how it looked. Especially the first trailer. Like, whoever at Paramount made that first trailer, released that first trailer back in April this year, deserves a slap in the face. Because it did not do the film any justice whatsoever. And it's not, while I'm not surprised that it bombed at the box office, underperformed at the box office, it's really unfortunate because this is actually one of the biggest surprises of the year. First off, let's start. Yeah, you heard that right. Transformers 1 is one of the biggest surprises I've seen in 2024. And not to mention, it's easily the best Transformers movie of all of them. Yeah. Yeah, you didn't expect me to say that. You didn't expect me to say that from a Hasbro-produced movie, but they really did it. They really made a good movie. They really made the best Transformers movie of all of them. So let's talk about what I really like about this movie. First off, let's start with the animation. The animation is absolutely spectacular. It's colorful and absolutely beautiful to look at, especially when it came to the details and the art direction that they provided on the characters as well as the backgrounds for it. And even despite its predictability, the story nevertheless felt highly engaging throughout. The screenplay was solid. It's well directed by Josh Cooley, who directed Toy Story 4, which was one of the best movies I saw from 2019. Most of the voice acting was terrific. Chris Hemsworth was absolutely wonderful as the voice of Orion and Optimus Prime, and this is one of his best performances he's given out of his career as a result of this. And what a year he had so far. First Furiosa, and now this movie. Not to mention, Brian Tyree Henry was also terrific as Megatron, and I felt the relationship and brotherhood, as well as the portrayal between Megatron and Optimus Prime throughout, as a result of the terrific vocal performances and the way the writers wrote the characters like that. And yes, I know, Søren, I know, but I really did like this movie. And Scarlett Johansson, Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Fishburne, and John Hamm also turned in excellent vocal performances as well. Brian Tyler's musical score was fantastic. Great editing. I was also surprised with how funny it was throughout most of the film. I was a little worried given the fact that it was going to go for that cliche Marvel and Minions humor throughout, but luckily that went away, especially given how 70% of the jokes landed very well, including this one, this one scene where Optimus Prime, like, oh my god, Optimus Prime is, even though you don't see it, he actually gives Elita's boss the middle finger, like oh my god. I mean, come on, that was funny. And it really shows how they were like. It really shows that like how they were like testing their limits to what they can get away with in a PG movie, which I actually really liked. The action in this movie was also fantastic and a lot of fun to watch, especially with not only how brilliantly animated they were, but how there were thrills in those sequences as well. And I also found the ending to be very satisfying. And to be fair, I would honestly like to see more of this world. Yeah, I would like to see more of Transformers in this. I'm not a big fan of Transformers, but man, after seeing this movie, I definitely would like to see more of this world. Now, let's talk about what I didn't like about the film. There were 30% of the jokes that didn't land, especially when most of it came from Bumblebee. And speaking of Bumblebee, that leads me to my biggest glaring issue with the film. Keegan-Michael Key was horribly miscast as the voice of Bumblebee. Yes, he tries to give it his all. But like I stated earlier, he suffers through the same problem as Seth Rogen when he voiced Donkey Kong in the Super Mario Bros. Movie last year. It's Keegan-Michael Key playing Keegan-Michael Key. And that really did take me out of the film in some parts, especially when it came to him doing some jokes, which got real annoying and real repetitive real fast. Seriously. He does serve a purpose in the film, but this is one of those times where you just wish for Bumblebee to just shut up. And it does suffer through a couple pacing issues as a result of this, and it can be predictable, especially with the portrayal of Optimus Prime and Megatron. But that's really it. Yeah, this is one of the biggest surprises of 2024. Transformers 1 is not only the best of the Transformers movies by a landslide, but it's also thrilling, highly entertaining, and a lot of fun. I really like this movie, 8 out of 10 or a B+. I really, really like this movie. It's one of the biggest surprises of this year so far. And now we move on to this next film, another Lionsgate film called Never Let Go. It stars Halle Berry and it's from the director of Crawl, which I really liked, and it has a really intriguing premise involving a mother and her twin sons who are haunted by an evil spirit and must remain connected by ropes to protect themselves. It's a really good premise. It's like almost like a quiet place. Instead of stay quiet, it's like you have to stay together. I really like that premise. It has a really good premise, and here's what I'll say about the film. As far as what I thought about the film after I saw it, here's what I'll say about it. It's very well directed. The acting was terrific, especially from Halle Berry, who was brilliant in the film, and the two kids that played the twin brothers. They were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant. The musical score felt haunting. It's got terrific cinematography. The movie does deliver some real tension and eerie atmosphere, as well as a couple of jump scares that were actually effective. And above all of that, there is some terrific sound mixing and design as well. Unfortunately, though, this was one of those movies where it came up as being nothing more than an underwhelming mess. Like, the story had a lot of potential with its premise and ambiguity, but it unfortunately felt like a convoluted mess. Like, I loved how ambiguous it was, where I did like how the movie played around with its ambiguity, where you don't know if what they're seeing is real or it's in their head. I like that. But I'll talk about why that fell apart in a little bit. While the character development was good, I honestly felt the screenplay could have used some improvement on the dialogue, since it felt clunky at times, as well as the way it tries to execute its main themes on fear, paranoia, trauma, and mental illness, which never came to fruition, unfortunately. And I'll mention why in a little bit with that. The tone also felt very inconsistent. Like, it can't decide if it wants to be a survival drama or psychological horror thriller film. There were also some editing choices that felt uneven and jarring at times, and it also suffers through a lot of pacing issues here and there as well. Oh, let me rephrase that. And not only does the film suffer through a lot of pacing issues here and there, but with why the themes of fear, paranoia, trauma, and mental illness never came to fruition, and why the story felt like a convoluted mess, and why the ambiguity and why its ambiguity ends up falling flat in the end, it all comes down to this ending. I'm not going to spoil what happens if you're curious about seeing this one, but the ending, even despite how much I liked that the movie played around with its ambiguity, where you don't know if the evil that has played the world outside of this family is real or not, the ending felt not only unsatisfying, but it also felt rushed and convoluted to the point where you can't help but feel like everything you saw in the movie, including its ambiguity, felt completely pointless. Like I would just cut out that last 2 minutes and then just end it with there. That would have actually been a really solid horror film. That would have actually been a really good horror film. But that ending really ruined it. Overall, it was okay. The movie was just okay. While the film is ambiguous, well acted, it has some creepy and terrifying moments here and there. Never Let Go sadly felt convoluted, inconsistent, and underwhelming. And with that, I'm going to have to give Never Let Go a disappointing 5 out of 10 or a C+. I really did not care for this one at all. But, I mean, it had a lot of potential, but the ending... But when you have a movie that has a very unsatisfying ending and makes the whole thing feel pointless, then it just ruins the premise. Then it just ruins the film for what could have been. So, Yeah, I really didn't care about this one.
Now we're gonna get to the substance. And
Hell yes!
And the movie about Demi Moore coming across this experimental serum to make a more perfect version of herself is truly an experience that nothing can prepare you for. While it's filled with killer performances from the likes of Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid, the true star of the movie is Carly Farget. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Her themes are,
Corelli far yet.
thank you. Her
You're
themes of
welcome.
jealousy, fame, drug addiction, and their effects on the life are topped only by the visuals. The cinematography and makeup are out of this world, and just when you thought the crazy levels were up to 11, it only gets enhanced to a 12 or even a 13. Go into this movie as blind as possible, and you'll get a cinematic journey unlike any other, which I'm giving the seal of cinema.
This movie was incredible. I did see the director's first movie, which was Revenge, and Revenge was a very good movie, even though I can't see myself watching that again. But man, did she knock it out of the park with the substance? I am not kidding when I say that this is one of the best movies I have seen in 2024. Like there are so many things I absolutely love about this movie. Like this movie was absolutely brilliant throughout. Like I want to talk about the acting first. Like Demi Moore, it was just good to see her in a leading role again. And to say that this is her best performance of her career would be a huge understatement. Like the way she gave it her all as Elizabeth was absolutely fantastic. Margaret Qualley was excellent as the younger version of Elizabeth after she took that substance, and she was brilliant. She was absolutely brilliant. But Dennis Quaid though, what a fucking performance. He's so cartoony and over the top in this movie, yet that actually works because of how his character is supposed to be a takedown on scumbag directors. And best of all, he had a few funny moments while portraying a character named Harvey. And come on, we all know what Harvey is a deconstruction of. We all know. Yeah, look at you, Harvey Wienerstein.
I was thinking more of Vince McMahon out of his performance.
Still no. Well, same thing. And what I absolutely loved about this movie was the screenplay. Not only do you have brilliant characterization, but you also have the dialogue that's feeling sharp, clever, and very well written. And it does a brilliant job with the way it explores and executes its themes of beauty, self-image, and ageism, while also being a brilliant deconstruction on the entertainment industry and the way it treats actresses in terms of not only their beauty, but their age as well. And on top of that, the story felt well structured, highly engaging, and absorbing. Corelli Farget's directing was fantastic. It's got a fantastic musical score. The cinematography was absolutely terrific and one of the best and mesmerizing and one of the best I've seen in the movie this entire year, especially since it gives off like Stanley Kubrick vibes. It's got terrific editing, excellent pacing, and the satire on the entertainment industry and its treatment on women in terms of their beauty and aging feeling felt very well executed, especially with how in your face it is. And I mean that in a good way. And now of course, let's talk about the practical effects. If there were words to describe the practical effects in this substance, it would be these following words: grotesque, yet well detailed and fantastic. Seriously, these practical effects artists did a fantastic job with the way they designed the disturbing imagery when it came to the body horror elements of the film. And it's going to be very difficult to shake any of these disturbing images off my head, especially what happens in the last 15 minutes of the film. Like, holy shit! I had never laughed so hard while also being on the edge of my seat at the last 15 minutes in quite some time. Like, wow! Wow! Like, oh my god! Oh my god! What a that last 15 minutes make all is one of the biggest reasons that payoff in the last 15 minutes is the biggest reason why this is one of the best movies I've seen in 2024. And the ending was also very unforgettable as well. Like especially with how extremely wild the last 15 minutes felt and how absorbing its ending felt. I absolutely love this movie. The substance is disturbing and outrageous. It's one of the most disgusting, outrageous, and disturbing, yet powerful, absorbing, and mesmerizing movies I've seen this entire year. And if you count this as a horror film, and even if you count this as a horror film, this is without a doubt the best horror film of the year. And it's really more of a satire per se, but it has a lot of body horror elements in it, which is why I count it as a horror film. But still, not only is it the best horror movie I've seen in 2024, it's also one of the year's best films. And with that, I'm going to give The Substance a very enthusiastic 10 out of 10 or an A+. Well done, Corelli. Well done.
Now we're going to get to The Wild Robot. And this is a movie where it's been gaining unanimous praise from people all over, saying it saved DreamWorks and it's the frontrunner to win the animated Oscar. And I have what I can't say as a hot take, more of a quote-unquote medium take. Let me explain. For the first half, I was completely on board with it. While it did have its fair share of anime cliches here and there, I was blown away with its colorful visuals, voice acting, especially from Lupita Nyong'o, and the music. And without spoiling anything, with about halfway through, it goes from this almost nature documentary-like story about a robot racing this Ron Gosling to yet another nature versus technology story with scenes that could have been cut, as well as a villain which I just didn't care about. So this is basically this generation's version of Wall-E. The first half is just about phenomenal, some of the best the studio has to offer, and while the second half is still good, I feel like it's been done before and isn't nearly as strong. So overall, I'm gonna give The Wild Robot the seal of approval.
Wow. I mean, I have to disagree with you on something, Søren, because this is on my list of the year's 10 best films. I love this movie. I really love The Wild Robot. I mean, the director of the film, Chris Sanders, did a wonderful job with this film. And if you know who Chris Sanders is, Lilo and Stitch, and also the director of How to Train Your Dragon. He really outdid himself with this one. He not only made what I feel is his best movie so far, but this is one of the best movies this is one of the year's 10 best films. Like, I am not kidding when I say that this is up there. That I'm not kidding when I say this. This is DreamWorks' best animated movie they've done since Shrek. Yes, I'm going that far. Because I had never experienced an animated film in quite some time where it actually did make me cry. But it did. It absolutely did. And after 2 years of like DreamWorks like making like mediocre to like even even after Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was a great movie, even after they released Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, they released like in 2023 they released Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, and that sucked. Then they released Trolls Band Together, and that was the worst animated movie I saw last year. Hey, Trolls Band Together fan 2001. Troll. Oh. Claimed their spending card loaded. God damn it. Sorry about that, guys. Technical. I don't know how that happened, but oh well. But anyway, then a few months later, DreamWorks Animation released Trolls Band Together, and that was the worst animated movie I saw that year. Hey, Trolls Band Together fan 2001, Trolls Band Together sucked. And then earlier this year, they released Kung Fu Panda 4, which was a huge step down from the previous film. This is one of the best movies that DreamWorks Animation has done. They really made an animated masterpiece. Like, I might as well talk about what I really loved about this movie. The story felt highly engaging and well crafted. Chris Sanders' directing was fantastic, and so was his screenplay, especially in terms of excellent characterization, well-written dialogue, and the tone feeling very consistent when it came to some of its comedic and dramatic elements mixed in. The voice acting was terrific. Lupita Nyong'o was terrific as the voice of Roz. Pedro Pascal, Kit Connor, Bill Nighy, Stephanie Hsu, Mark Hamill, Catherine O'Hara, and Vin Rames also deliver excellent vocal performances as well. The score was fantastic. It's got excellent editing and pacing. The themes of belonging, parenthood, kindness, nature versus technology, and the power of love felt very well executed. It also does a brilliant job adding in some humor sprinkled into the mix. And of course, let's talk about the animation. Absolutely incredible. Seriously, if the well detailed textures, design, visuals, as well as art direction aren't enough to describe how beautiful the animation looked, then I don't know what does. And you know, I want to mention this too. He wanted to make them. Chris Sanders wanted to make like the movie like there's some type of like painting and stuff, and boy, it really showed with this one. It really shows with how beautiful the animation is. And also, according to him, he stated that he took inspiration from not only Hayao Miyazaki with the classic film My Neighbor Totoro, but also from a Disney classic film Bambi. And it definitely shows with the way he crafted this one, because my God, he crafted a great animated film. And of course, this has one of the most emotional endings I've ever seen in an animated film. Like, I actually cried 2 times watching this movie. 2 times. And it was towards the end of the film. Like when that last moment happened, I literally bawled my eyes out. Like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. Yeah, overall, The Wild Robot is one of the best DreamWorks animated movies I've seen since Shrek, and easily one of the most deeply moving animated films I've seen in general, too. And it is easily on my list for the year's 10 best movies. And without a doubt, you know what? Of course The Wild Robot gets a 10 out of 10 or an A+. Of course it gets that rating. Seriously, hats off to DreamWorks Animation for their redemption and for making one of their best animated films yet. What a fantastic film. Do yourself a favor and go see The Wild Robot as soon as you can. Please.
Now we're going to get to a movie I'm sure you've never even heard of, Hellboy The Crooked Man.
Oh, boy.
I'm sure you never even heard of this movie until now, after the studio pretty much forgot to promote it to the point where they just gave up at the last minute and dumped it onto VOD. And given how popular the character is, I expected better. And I expected better from this movie too. Remember how high fantasy and action packed the two Ron Perlman movies and even the 2019 reboot were? Well, here they turn it into a generic and cheap as hell exorcism period piece movie you'd expect from A24 or something. The actors do their best, but the characters have nothing of worth. Hellboy just looks like a regular guy with red face paint and horns that you can practically see peeling off his head. The cinematography ranges from decent to straight up bad.
What?
The music is stock as hell, and the CGI is just the worst. Honestly, it's hard to say whether this is worse than the 2019 reboot because they're both bad in different ways. 2019 sucked because of its screenplay and tone being all over the place, while this one sucked because it was extremely cheap for a supposed fantasy action series. Either way, I'm giving this piece of shit the seal disapproval. And now for the main event.
You knew it's coming, man. You knew it was coming.
Oh, sorry, I.
And to that response, I have this.
Yep, it's Joker Folie do. This is a movie that's gotten as much controversy, if not more so, as the last movie, with people calling it both a tonal mess and a slap in the face to fans of the original. And admittedly, I was on the edge when I heard that even some of the biggest fans of the original have turned on it. And after watching the movie myself, I can say I found this sequel just as thrilling and entertaining as the first one.
To me, this was a huge step down from the previous movie. This was a huge step down and a huge slap in the face to people who love the first Joker movie, myself included.
Just like the first one delved into the link between a poor society and crime, this movie delves into such themes as is the Joker real or just a delusional personality Arthur made as an excuse for his murders?
Which,
And
by the way, I called the end. I called the twist. If I were like Arthur Fleck saying there is no Joker, it was just him the entire time. Like, how fucking predictable.
And also, should you continue giving the people what they want in the face of fame, or be honest about yourself for the greater good? And just like the first movie, this one expresses doubts about what's real and what's in the main character's head, especially when it comes to the musical numbers, which are the highlights of this whole experience.
I'm sorry, but I found the musical numbers in this movie to be absolutely atrocious because, and here's the reason why. They not only felt underwhelming, but also felt out of place. Even despite good choreography, what makes the musical numbers feel underwhelming is that not only how it's a jukebox musical, but they feel so out of place and serve no purpose to the story whatsoever, other than, oh, this is Arthur's fucked up fantasy you're seeing. This is what he's thinking in his head. Like, I would have liked it if they just cut out the musical numbers.
Joaquin Phoenix is once again fantastic, and Lady Gaga
That
is
I
just
will
as
agree
good.
with. I will agree with that. He was
And the,
brilliant as Joker.
and the rest of the cast, both old and new, give it their all. It's beautifully shot and brilliantly scored by Hildur G. It keeps a perfect pace throughout, and it's got an ending that admittedly won't be for everyone, but left me speechless nonetheless.
Fuck this ending.
So overall,
this ending fucking sucked, and it was a complete slap in the face to anybody, and I mean anybody who loved the first Joker film. And you know what? I'm gonna have to spoil this ending because of how idiotic this is. Like, this ending was the biggest reason why this is one of the worst movies of the year. By having a young inmate stab Arthur to death after he tells a joke, the director basically not only insulted the audience's intelligence, but the people who loved the first Joker film. And it also left a huge rotten taste. Like, oh my god, like, and that is shameful. I mean, this movie throughout was just disappointingly bad. But that ending really left a rotten taste in my mouth. It really did. It really left such a rotten taste. This everything you love about the first one, gone. As Justin Williams stated. Absolutely gone.
So overall, this is not only up there with the watches as the most underrated film of the year, but it's also tied with Blonde as the most underrated film of the decade. As it keeps the themes going from the first movie while also giving something more. I'd recommend giving this at least one watch to decide for yourself whether this is a brilliant dive into the psychosis of a crazed man or if this is a complete disgrace. As for me, it gets the seal of cinema.
The only redeeming things I found in the film were that Joaquin Phoenix and Brendan Gleeson. Joaquin Phoenix was once again excellent as Arthur Fleck the Joker, while Brendan Gleeson gives out a very good performance as Jackie Sullivan, the abusive guard from the from the Arkham State Hospital. There we go. It's got fantastic cinematography and excellent production design. But unfortunately, that's it. I already mentioned the story and how the story had I already mentioned the musical numbers and the ending. There's also so much I absolutely hate about this movie. The story felt all over the place since it clearly had no idea what it wanted to be. The writing was atrocious, and that's mainly due to messy characterization, bland dialogue, and the tone feeling all over the place where it can't decide if it wants to be a psychological thriller, a dark comedy, or a courtroom drama. And speaking of the courtroom drama stuff, this is nothing but just exposition dumps and everything that you saw in the first film. Like, we already saw what happened in the first film. You don't need to remind us again as to what happened in it. Todd Phillips' directing was terrible. The rest of the actors give it their all, but are horribly wasted due to them not getting that much to do in the film, including poor Lady Gaga, who felt underutilized in this movie. The marketing felt, and worst of all, the marketing said that Arthur Fleck and Lee are about to fall in love with each other. By the way, that never happened. I mean, like, my God, like especially at the end of the film when after Arthur confesses that he made the Joker character up, Lee rejects him. Lee literally rejects him. So why the hell would you market this as like a musical romance drama when their romance felt underutilized? Some of the editing choices came across as jarring and uneven, and yeah, this movie just absolutely sucked. This is one of the worst movies of the year. Despite Joaquin Phoenix's powerhouse performance, Joker Folie Deux, or as John Wick, John Wick and Beavis and Butthead FTW Alt Channel called it, Joker Folie à Poo is unfortunately a huge step down from the first Joker film, since it was nothing but a convoluted and inconsistent mess. And not only is it the most disappointing film I've seen in 2024, but it's also one of the worst movies I've seen this year as well. In the words of Billy Madison, and in the words of Adam Sandler's Billy Madison, Todd Phillips.
You blew it!
Oh, sorry. Let me try that again. In the words of Billy Madison, Todd Phillips.
You blew it!
2 out of 10 or D. One of the worst movies of the year and easily the most disappointing film of the year. Fuck this movie.
And now that we got
You know what? One last thing too. Thank God it flopped.
Now we're going to get to something far less controversial, my annual tier list. And as you can see, this time I'm going over the Halloween movies. So let's begin. First off, the first Halloween is obviously an S. It's a classic for a reason. It's one of the most influential slasher films for a reason. So yeah, it's an S. Halloween 2 was okay, but I felt it to be a bit slow, so I give it a C. Halloween 3, I think it's a bit underrated. I feel like the only reason why people have hated back then was because it didn't feature Michael Myers. So yeah, pretty underrated. Speaking of underrated, Halloween 4, not exactly a perfect movie, but a decent way to continue the franchise. Same can't be said for these next two movies, Halloween 5 and Halloween 6.
Halloween 6 was hands down the worst. The worst.
And my biggest problem with these two movies is that they pretty much derailed the mystery of Michael Myers and just said, oh, Michael Myers isn't evil because of his nature. He's evil because of this evil cult.
Like what? Like what? That makes no sense.
And the irony is, I ended up watching the producer's cut, which is good because I hear the theatrical cut is so much worse. But don't get me wrong, they're still pretty atrocious. What's not atrocious, though, is Halloween H2O, which I'm giving an A.
That was a really good movie. And you know what? That's a perfect legacy sequel to watch.
And it would have been a perfect way to end the series, except,
of course, this piece of shit.
I'll be honest, that movie is just so stupid that I just can't help but laugh at it. Trick or treat, motherfucker.
Like when Buster Rhymes says that.
Now, this is going to be the most controversial ranking here, but I think Rob Zombie's Halloween, the first one, is actually pretty okay. Not exactly perfect and kind of obnoxious at times, but I felt it to be a decent dive into Michael Myers' childhood. However, the sequel was a piece of shit.
Yeah, really.
Instead of being a traditional slasher movie, Rob Zombie just turned it into this pretentious art house movie about white horses or some shit.
Which made no sense whatsoever.
And especially Michael, and especially Dr. Loomis, who went from being this compelling character to Ellen Burstyn in Exorcist Believer.
Yep, he did. Unfortunately. Halloween
2018, I thought it was It had some good moments. Jamie Lee Curtis is once again great, but I felt it was a bit all over the place, and some of the writing can be a bit too comedic for my taste. For more information, go watch Chris Stuckman's review.
Honestly, I liked it less even more, and that's thanks to those two other movies I absolutely hated. But it was a solid movie, but not great.
Halloween Kills is even worse.
Fuck this movie.
I thought the 2018 movie was all over the place. Halloween Kills is even more so.
Yeah, really.
With characters
especially with the mob mentality scene that comes out of nowhere.
And the ending for that movie.
Fuck this ending.
And finally,
Halloween Ends. One of the worst movies I saw from 2022.
and I'll just say it right now, if I remade that my top 10 worst movies of 2022, Halloween Ends would not only be up there, but it would probably be number one. Yes, this movie beat Disenchanted as the worst movie of 2022.
And you're not alone. You are not alone with this one. There are some other people that named Halloween Ends as the worst film of 2022. Well, I don't think it was the worst film of that year. Jurassic World Dominion was in my opinion. This was nevertheless a complete slap in the face, and above all, this was nevertheless a complete slap in the face and one of the worst conclusions to a trilogy I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, especially considering this is not a Michael Myers movie.
No, it's not.
I mean, say what you will about Rise of Skywalker or Hotel Transylvania 4 or to some extent Jurassic World Dominion. At least they tried to stick to their course. Halloween Ends didn't.
Yeah, and that was the biggest problem. Like when you make the Rise of Skywalker look good in comparison, you know we have a problem. You know we have a fucking problem.
And when we get to the ending where Laurie Strode finally kills Michael Myers, it's just unsatisfying.
It's not satisfying. Like it felt anticlimactic, as Jose just pointed out just now. And
Yeah.
the thing with Corey Cunningham, what the fuck was that shit?
So yeah, Halloween Ends is not only the worst movie of the entire franchise, but also my new worst movie of 2022. So here's my entire tier list. Yeah.
All right. And we're gonna do it, and we have something new for you guys. And for before we end our show with the top five best horror movies we've ever seen. We're gonna do something a bit different with the dog and pick of the show in honor of 50 episodes.
Yep. For my pick and dog of the show, considering that this is the 50th episode overall, I figured I'd do something special. And for this episode, I don't have one movie for the pick or dog, or two, or even three. In fact, I have 50. That's right. For this special episode, I thought I'd look back on the past 5 years and go over the top 50 best and worst movie I ever reviewed for this podcast. And I have a lot to go over it, so let's begin.
Do it.
Firstly, the best. Number 50, The Zone of Interest. Number 49, Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley. Number 48, Emily the Criminal. Number 47, Thelma. Number 46, Tenet. Number 45, Past Lives. Number 44, Lisa Frankenstein. Number 43, Barbie. Number 42, Never Really, Sometimes Always. Number 41, Tick Tick Boom. Number 40, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Number 39, The Suicide Squad. Number 38, Annette. Number 37, Poor Things. Number 36, Nope. Number 35, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Number 34, Pig. Number 33, The Banshees of Inisherin. Number 32, Are You There God It's Me Margaret. Number 31, Missing. Number 30, A Quiet Place Part 2. Number 29, All Quiet on the Western Front. Number 28, Last Night in Soho. Number 27, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Number 26, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Number 25, The Fall Guy. Number 24, The Green Knight. Number 23, Top Gun Maverick. Number 22, The Holdovers. Number 21, The Batman. Number 20, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Number 19, Belfast. Number 18, The Menu. Number 17, Promising Young Woman. Number 16, Tetris. Number 15, Another Round. Number 14, The Fablemans. Number 13, Soul. Number 12, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Number 11, The Father.
That high? Wow.
For what movie?
You're. Oh, I thought you were talking about Robinson Zemeckis' Pinocchio. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Guillermo del Toro.
Never mind.
Number 10, Spider-Man No Way Home. Number 9, Sound of Metal. Number 8, a tie between Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon. Number 7, Inside Out 2. Number 6, Denise Richards' Dune Parts 1 and 2. Number 5, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Number 4, Sing Sing. Number 3, The Substance. Number 2, The Whale. And number 1, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Well, I'm gonna count. I'm only gonna do 5 for my best, but for the best that we reviewed on this podcast for 50 episodes. So I'm only gonna do 5. And these were the films that Søren and I did review for the last 5 years on the podcast. Starting with number 5, Dune parts 1 and 2. Number 4, The Father. Number 3, Paul Thomas Anderson's Licorice Pizza. Number 2, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And my favorite movie that Søren and I covered and my favorite movie that I've seen for the past 50 podcasts, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer.
Now for the ones you've been waiting for, the worst movies. Anyways, here's the garbage list. Number 50, Borderlame.
Oh my god, that film.
Number 49, Rebel Mooning, Parts 1 and 2. Number 48, Peter Pan and Wendy. Number 47, Scoob. Number 46, The Bubble. Number 45, Thunder Farce. Number 44, The Crow reboot nobody asked for. Number 43, Drive Away Dog Shit. Number 42, The Mother. Number 41, The Wrong Pussy. Thank you to Jerome and Alex for this nickname. Number 40, The Excrement Bowel Movements. Number 39, Dear Evan Hansen, Go Fuck Yourself. Number 38, Capone. Number 37, Don't Worry, Darling. Number 36, Hotel Transylvania 4 Transformania, the sequel that doesn't actually exist. Number 35, The Woman in the Window. Number 34, Home Sweet Home Alone. Number 33, The Killer's Game. Number 32, Roland Emmerich's Moonfart. Number 31, Biosphere. Number 30, Don't Look Up. Number 29, The Garfield Movie. Number 28, Back to Bullshit, Back to Black. Number 27, Operation Boredom, Rooster Gear. Number 26, The Loud House Movie. Number 25, Space Jam, a new HBO Max commercial.
That movie sucked.
Number 24, The 355 Reasons to Not Watch This Movie. Number 23, Do Little to Impress. Number 22, Nightmare Island, from the director of Truth or Dare. Number 21, Assassin, the movie that ended Bruce Lewis's career on a whimper. Number 20, Dix the Musical. Number 19, Cocaine Bore. Number 18, It's Morbin Time. Number 17, The After sequels, of which I've seen. Number 16, Despicable Me 4. Number 15, Summering. Number 14, Retribution. Number 13, Expendables. Number 12, Tom and Jerry. Number 11, Five Nights at Freddy's. Number 10, a tie between the two most controversial movies of the decade, Cuties and Music. Number 9, Songbird. Number 8, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Number 7, Disenchanted. Number 6, Halloween Ends. Number 5, Artemis's Foul Stench. Number 4, Harold and the Purple Dildo. My number 3 to number 1 are my rare 0 out of 10s. Number 3, The Boss Baby Family Bullshit. Number 2, Madam Wussy. And number 1, Saving Bikini Bomb, the Sandy Cheeks movie.
Harold and the Purple Dildo. Harold and the Purple Dildo. Hey, Trev, what's up? Welcome to the podcast, dude. You're just in time, by the way. As I reveal my top 10 movies that top 10 worst movies that I saw for the 50 episodes I've done with Søren. Starting with number 10, Tom and Jerry. Number 9, I can't believe I'm about to say this, It's Morbid Time. Number 8, Songbird. Number 7, Doolittle. More like Poo-Poo Little Star. How I wonder what type of fucking shit you are. Number 6, Jurassic World Dominion. Or as I like to call it, Jurassic Turd Defecation. Number 5, The Exorcist Believer. Number 4, Fantasy Island. Number 3, Borderlands. Number 2, Dear Evan Hansen. And currently the worst movie that I've seen in the past 50 episodes, Madam Web. Or as I like to, or as Søren calls it, Madam Wussy. And happy Halloween to you too, Trev. All right, so we got one last thing we want to do to honor Halloween, and we're gonna honor 5 of the best movies that Søren and I saw. That Søren and I saw. So he'll do number 5. I'll do my number 5. He'll do number 4. I'll do number 4. So on and so forth.
Now, if you know me, I'm not exactly the biggest horror stan on the face of the planet, as it's not exactly a genre I automatically gravitate towards, but there have been a handful of ones that really impressed me. And my number 5, usually when you think of the best performances of the late great Robin Williams, chances are you think of the likes of Aladdin, Good Will Hunting, Dead Poets Society, and so forth. But to me, the best performances of his are the ones where he completely disappears into the role to the point where it becomes almost unrecognizable. The 2 movies that come to mind are Christopher Nolan's Insomnia, and my number 5 on this list, 1 Hour Photo. This movie essentially did to those full developing booths you used to see all the time 20 years ago what Psycho did to hotels. No wonder those full booths don't exist anymore. Robin plays this man so reclusive and desperate to get laid that he becomes so obsessed with his family of dedicated customers, to the point where he keeps copies of their pictures and pretends they're his own. And he's so obsessed with them that he takes matters into his own hands when he discovers there's an affair involved. It's rather sad that Mark Romanek has barely made anything in his career, because this movie proves his talent in his directing actors, visuals, and story in a tense and unique way. And that's my number 5, 1 Hour Photo.
My number 5 My number 5 would be one of the top 5 movies from 1990, and the movie that absolutely deserved Kathy Bates her Oscar, Misery.
That's a really good one.
Misery was absolutely wonderful. Kathy Bates plays a former nurse who claims to be the biggest fan of Paul Sheldon after he got into in a serious car crash. And my God, what a performance she gave out in her career. Like, she absolutely deserved that Best Supporting Actress. Did she actually win Best Actress in a Leading Role? Shit. Forgot about that. Still, though, she was absolutely wonderful in the film. And this is her best performance of her career, without a doubt. On top of terrific writing, excellent directing by Rob Reiner, and an intriguing story that kept me on the edge of my seat, as well as the film delivering real tension and suspense. This is one of the best Stephen King adaptations. This is one of the best movies based on Stephen King's book I've ever seen. It's not the best. We'll get to my number two. But this is definitely a close second. And that's why Misery is my number 5.
My number 4 is genuinely one of the most unique cinematic experiences I've ever seen, and that's The Lighthouse. Robert Eggers has previously made somewhat of a name for himself when he made The Wits, but this is the one that got him on the map. You think a movie about 2 guys hanging out in the lighthouse would be born as sin, but they found a way to make it a creepy, haunting, awkwardly funny, and almost cosmic piece of cinema. This is the best performances of both Robert Pattinson and especially Willem Dafoe, who not only was snubbed of an Oscar nomination, but he should have fucking won too. The visuals are both trippy and gothic, almost like a gothic horror movie from 100 years ago. Throughout this movie, you don't know whether to be scared or amused, whether this is all real or just in the same minds, or even if this whole movie is meant to be a straight-up horror movie or a comedy of sorts. It's safe to say I got a little bit of everything out of this movie, and that's why it's so special to me, to the point where it's my number 4.
And the guy that did the play Paul Sheldon was James Caan, and he did voice Flint's dad in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. He did. So yeah. Number four is what I consider to be one of Stanley Kubrick's best movies, and one of Stanley Kubrick's best movies. And did I say Misery was a close second? I meant The Shining was a close second.
Which is my number 3.
Nice.
This movie turns Stephen King's story about an alcoholic writer who goes insane when he and his family become caretakers of a creepy hotel during the winter into a chilling character study about what happens when a person already deteriorating mind one step too far. Much like The Lighthouse, this movie uses visuals, music, and atmosphere to get the feeling of cabin fever driving you insane, and is further helped by Oscar-snubbed cinematography and production design, especially as well as the performances of Danny Lloyd, Sheri Duvall, and Jack Nicholson in one of his finest roles. It's one of the most celebrated and discussed movies in the horror genre for a reason, and it's my number 3.
And when it first came out, it was met with mixed reviews from critics. Well, it was met with mixed to negative reviews from critics, but as time went on, the critical evaluation improved, and now it's being considered a horror classic, which I definitely agree with. And pretty much what he said about The Shining is the reason why this is number 4 on my list. Yeah, that's why it's number 4. Number 3 is the only horror film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, horror thriller, I should say, and it is The Silence of the Lambs.
It's up there for me too.
This is a brilliant character study unlike serial killers, featuring Jodie Foster giving out one of her best performances as the cop, as well as Anthony Hopkins delivering his best performance, his best and most menacing performance as Hannibal Lecter. Like, oh my God, ooh, that still gives me the creeps. Still gives me the creeps. He absolutely deserved to win that Oscar. So, and above all of that, it also has one of my favorite endings I've I've seen in a horror movie. So yeah, The Silence of the Lambs is mine, and this is a masterclass work from director Jonathan Demme, who would go on to do Philadelphia, which is another fantastic film. And he's done a lot, and he's done some other films in the past too, even before The Silence of the Lambs. But this is the one that Jonathan Demme made that I consider his best masterpiece to date. And that's why I have The Silence of the Lambs as my number 3.
My number 2 is a masterpiece pretty much made by accident, and that's Steven Spielberg's Jaws. In case you don't know, this movie was supposed to be just another creature feature with a shark, but it's got so many issues on set, like the shark getting damaged, causing it to go over budget and way behind schedule, that Spielberg had no choice but to shift the movie's focus on the human characters. And it's a good thing he did. The story about a group of unlikely heroes sent to stop a shark's killing spree is a joy to watch, from the pacing to the effects to the music. And like I said before, what makes this movie isn't the shark itself. What makes this movie are the characters. Boris Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, and Robert Shaw are both well acted and compellingly developed. And even when there's no shark attacks, you still can't stop watching because the characters are that engaging. It's the movie that jumpstarted not just Spielberg's career, but the summer movie boom as a whole for a reason, and it's my number 2.
My number 2 is the only film. My number 2 is what I consider to be the best of Stephen King's adaptation. Is what I consider to be the best movie of Stephen King based on Stephen King's adaptation, and that is Carrie, the original 1976 version of Carrie. Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie both earned Oscar nominations for their performances, and boy, were they well deserved. They were so well deserved. Sissy Spacek was menacing. Sissy Spacek was wonderful as Carrie White, while Piper Laurie was menacing yet powerful as her mother, like a religious freak. And on top of this being John Travolta's first movie, which he did a wonderful job for, it also has excellent writing as it delves deep into Carrie White's character, and excellent directing by Brian De Palma, and a wonderful scene involving the prom wreckage, which is one of the best horror. Which, let me rephrase that again. And a terrific scene involving where Carrie White, after getting pig blood all over her, wrecks the prom. Wrecks the prom. And like, that is one of the most iconic scenes I've ever seen in a horror movie. And yeah, I really love this movie, and that is why Carrie, the 1976 version, is my number 2.
My number 1, you pretty much know what it is. I talked about it a couple times on this podcast. It's one of my very favorite movies, and it's hands down Alfred Hitchcock's finest movie, Psycho. What really sticks out to me about this movie is that at first, it seems like your typical drama about a woman who steals from her boss in order to support her boyfriend. But once we first meet a certain individual midway through, this movie takes a turn which only gets darker and more twisted the more it dives into the characters. The cinematography, pacing, and music are all top notch, and the performances are all in their A game, especially Anthony Perkins in the performance of a career. It's an experience that could never be replicated, further put in by 3 sequels, a YouTube recreation which somehow got a theatrical budget, and a prequel TV show which didn't even come close to the success and phenomena this masterpiece achieved. And all that and more is why it's the best Hitchcock movie, the best film of the 60s, and overall, the best horror movie in history.
And let's just agree on this. 1998 remake can go fuck itself. I'm sorry. Let me repeat that one last time since I was facing technical issues. But let's agree on this: the 1998 remake of Psycho can go fuck itself. My number 1 favorite horror film of all time is one of the few few horror films to be nominated for Best Picture, and it absolutely deserves it. If anything, I would have picked this as the best film in 1973. I believe you guys know which film I'm talking about. Number one, The Exorcist. This is hands down one of the greatest horror movies I've ever seen in my life. From its spellbinding performances by Ellen Burstyn and Linda Blair, to its fantastic effects, the scares that feel more terrifying as it delivers real tension, the score, which is masterfully done, terrific cinematography, the story that had me on the edge of my seat throughout, terrific writing, terrific editing, excellent pacing, real tension throughout, and an ending that was just fantastic and satisfying. The Exorcist, the original Exorcist, is without a doubt my favorite horror film of all time. And we're done, y'all. We're done with the 50th episode. That will wrap up the 50th episode of the FilmBrony podcast. Hope you guys had a lot of fun watching this. I sure as hell did. I'm pretty sure Søren did too. And we'll be back again in the next 2 weeks for episode 51 of the FilmBrony podcast.
Since Halloween is just about over, if you excuse me, I have a certain holiday to prepare for.
It's Halloween. Yeah, I'm excited for Christmas as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us on another edition of the podcast. And thanks again for joining us on the 50th. Thanks again for joining us for 50 whole episodes of the FilmBrony podcast. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a fun ride since we've done this, and we will continue to do 50 more episodes of this, hopefully in the future, which I'm sure we will. I'm sure we'll get to 100 at some point. Who knows? But thank you very much for joining us on this. Be sure to and as always, be sure to subscribe to Søren the FilmBrony on his YouTube channel. The link is in the description below. Give him the love he absolutely deserves. He is a wonderful YouTuber and a great friend to talk to. And until we meet again in 2 more weeks for episode 51 of the FilmBrony podcast, have a great Halloween. And as always, take care of it. And as always, take care.